Hello everyone, my name is Camille and you're watching Yabacon TV. Today we're joined by a very special guest. His name is Ebun. He's a senior UI UX developer. He's also a tech entrepreneur who spent the years creating processes that enhance user experiences and creating products that benefit the user. And today we're going to learn a thing or two from him. So Ebun, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Camille. It's good to be here.
Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of people still think that UI UX is just similar to putting colors together, writing this, writing that, then designing one thing. And some other people think it's not different from graphic design. But UI UX design sits at an intersection between what is technically possible, right? What is business viable and what is consumer usable. That's the way I like to see it, right? Talking about technically possible, we're talking about the technical side of things. This product, can it work?
Exactly. There's a lot of strategy that goes into
Can it
it.
work?
There's a lot of thought.
Exactly. The business side of it, is it viable? Should we venture into it or should we backtrack? Then is it usable, right? Can people use it to solve a problem? Is there any need for it?
Yeah.
Why should people use this? Why should people not just go about their daily activity the normal way without the aid of this product that you're proposing? And the icing on the cake is now the experience that binds all of this together. So you're drawing the business side, the viability, with the requirement from the business side. You're bringing together, the technical side of things, and then the users. So this is where UI UX sits for me, right? So the misconception that it is just graphic design is totally false.
In Africa and especially in Nigeria, being a senior UI UX developer, that's where the money is, that's where the opportunities are. So how does someone go from being a junior UI UX developer to a senior one as quickly as possible?
When people come to me, a lot of people come to me today, Ebun, I have this person who is interested in design, or I have this guy who's been doing graphic design and wants to transition into product design. I always go back to that fundamental question: why do you want to do this?
Of course.
Right? Before you even, let's ask ourselves why you want to do this. For me, I said that I transitioned into product design because I wanted to solve problems from a design perspective. So you start with knowing why you want to do this. Then secondly, you need to start, you need to do a lot of research, know what you want to do is about.
Okay.
So the first thing is to know why. Why do you want to do this? The second thing is, what is this about? Right? Sometimes you think you know why, but when you discover what it is about, you might go back and, question your original intention and say, oh, this isn't what I should be doing. So starting off as a fresh, or a new person in UI UX, you need to answer all of those fundamental questions. Then secondly, you may want to look at going through a structured learning path, or being a self-disciplined learner, right? Let's add the word discipline, because you could veer off, you could get distracted, you could get lost, saying, in the process of trying to learn on your own, right? Continue learning, right? You give yourself to continuous learning.
Okay.
Then secondly, you need to find a design coach or a mentor, and also belong to a community. The reason for this is that, first off, the community helps for knowledge sharing. It helps you see what others are doing, and it helps you also get inspired, right? While the design mentor or coach helps to critique your work, because you need to be sure that you're doing the right thing, right? You need a guide, right? So you are not just wandering, on a journey without direction.
So what are some things that you've learned on your journey that you feel like a lot of young designers out there can gain from?
For me, there are some constants that never change.
Okay.
Number one, the fundamentals, right? you need to be grounded in the fundamentals, and you never outgrow the fundamentals. Basically, you can be creative around the design fundamentals, UX principles, and all of that, but you never outgrow it. So the fundamentals are very key. You don't want to. So you need to know. You need to know the law. You need to know the principles so you can beat it. Right. So if you do not know it, how do you beat it? So you need to understand that, okay, if I'm going to veer off this basic fundamental of design, right, I need to know it. So know the fundamentals. It's very key. You never outgrow it. Then, you need to give yourself to learning, right? You need to give yourself to learning, right? You can never get to the point where you feel you know it all.
Yeah.
More so, design UI UX is a very dynamic field, right? It's very dynamic in the sense that what we used to do some time ago may not apply now. Not because the fundamentals change, but it might be an upgrade of a particular tool that we didn't used to, that we no longer use, right? So collaboration, for example, look at the way we collaborate today. It's a lot more seamless than it used to be, right? So you need to give yourself to learning, right? Association, right? You need to associate, right? You need to join design communities, right? Then one major challenge, creatives experience, across board is the imposter syndrome, right? Sometimes you just feel your designs are not good enough, right? But it is that feeling that makes room, right, for improvement. It now depends on how it is handled. Because if you design something today and you put it out there and you get feedback, definitely you wouldn't do that kind of design. You probably would do something a lot better than what you did. Of course. But if you never put it out there and you just wallow in that feeling, man, not good enough, right? You're going to sink in, and it's going to affect your confidence as a designer, right? So confidence is very key. You need to be confident, and one of the ways to be confident is learning to accept feedback, learning to be vulnerable, right? So, the way design is that is something that kinds of exposes your vulnerability to people who are design oriented and people who are not. So you see a piece of art that has been, painted or worked on, or you see a product that has been designed and it's out there. It is the people who give feedback. So all of your concerns around being inadequate, around being, not being good enough, is left for the people to decide.
Yeah.
So being vulnerable. So you have to be vulnerable before you can learn to accept feedback. So put yourself out there, get the feedback, and be willing to learn, right? So don't chicken out when the feedback comes negative. But then, like I earlier mentioned, right, you need to be able to filter, positive criticisms, for positive feedback from negative ones, right? An unpleasant, feedback that does not sit well with you might be a positive one, because maybe it's actually identifying a flaw in the design. But you need to understand that, this is not an attack, at me, at my person, or at my competence, right? It is a critique of the work.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing. At the top of everything is learning, continuous learning. You keep learning and improving. Then you need to collaborate with us, right? So, for example, we have the developers, we have product managers we work with because of the cross-functional nature of UI UX design, right? So you may need to reach out to developers. A lot of them have some ideas, right? But they don't have the design skill to execute it. So collaborating with them opens you up to a whole lot more possibilities, right? Then you have the product managers there. that you can also learn from. So collaboration is also very key. You need to learn how to collaborate because, like I said UI UX sits um, at the intersection between what is technically possible, commercially viable, and consumer usable.
Ooh,
Right?
I like that quote a lot.
Yeah. So that's the way I put it, right?
Yeah.
So that is where UI UX sits. So if you do not collaborate, right, you probably will not know what is technically possible. You don't want to go and design something that is like, man, this is impossible. Impossible not in the sense that it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Why do you want to design something that looks like this, right? So you need to know what is technically possible, right?
Yeah.
In terms of requirements. So you're designing something that the requirements is not feasible, so it's not possible. So technically, it's dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Then you need to also collaborate so you can know what is commercially viable, right? So a lot of the time, as part of the misconceptions people used to have, a lot of companies are getting it right now. UX sits in a very, very vintage position in every organization because when business, or kickoff meetings or project kickoff meetings are going on, a lot of business conversations are going on. And if you exclude the UI UX person, or the UI UX team from that conversation, a lot that makes them, struggle to understand what the product is about because they don't understand the business side of all of that conversation. So if you're going to, learn as a UI UX person, you need to be open to learning to other things that are not primarily design related, which is what I just mentioned. So the commercial viability, which is where business conversations come in, right? You need to know. In fact, for me as a person, I like to, drill design down to the bottom line, how it impacts on the bottom line, right? For example, we want to run a campaign that, says that that would drive sales, but we are not putting a very vivid call to action button somewhere.
Okay.
Or we are not even putting sufficient information or a trigger that would initiate that necessary behavior for people to actually, carry out the actions that would affect the bottom line.
Right.
So collaboration with respect to, business conversations, commercial viability. Then the last is, the user side. So you are the fulcrum, right? The technical possibility of this product going live or being achievable, the business viability, and then the consumer usability. Can users, use this product? Do they really need to use a product to achieve this? Do you understand? So that's the big picture of UX for me. And coming into UX, that's just the advice I give, right? So you need to understand where UX sits and what you will be doing, right? So in the old mix, you begin to carve your niche, right? So we have UX designers that are more of the business, oriented. They like the numbers, right? They love to play with the numbers. They want to tell you why this design would help achieve, this particular business, need and all of that.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
It's been amazing having you on. I hope a lot of young designers can watch this and get inspired and go out there and create something beautiful. So thank you guys. That's been it. I'll see you guys in the next one.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.